This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Donald Trump takes the oath and immediately makes promises.
The golden age of America begins right now.
I'm Steve Futterman.
President Trump gets right to business.
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so.
I'm Clayton Neville.
After attending the inauguration, Joe Biden bids America farewell. Donna Warder has that.
Dr. Anthony Fauci and General Mark Milley are among those getting last-minute pardons from President Biden. Ed Donahue, Washington.
On Wall Street, investors are back at it this morning after the markets were closed for the holiday yesterday. All eyes on TikTok. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
President Trump signs J6 pardons.
Santa Ana winds return to the Los Angeles area, bringing fears of new fires.
We have a red flag warning.
I'm Julie Walker.
All ahead on America in the Morning. With cold weather forcing the ceremony inside the US Capitol Rotunda, Donald Trump was sworn in as the nation's 47th president and vowed to put America first as he enters his second term in office. Steve Futterman has our top story.
As is tradition, it was an event full of pomp and ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect's cabinet and cabinet-level designees.
One by one, the honored guests were introduced. The ceremony was much more intimate than normal, having been moved indoors into the Capitol Rotunda because of cold winter weather. Temperatures were in the 20s. For one last time, the man who has been president since 2021 was introduced.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, the Honorable Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
And then it was time for the man taking his place.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect of the United States, the Honorable Donald John Trump.
Chief Justice John Roberts administered the oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Donald Trump's inaugural address began with a glowing promise for the future.
The golden age of America begins right now.
He reeled off a list of things he will do.
From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
While not mentioning anyone by name, Trump characterized America's current state as dysfunctional.
We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad.
And he talked about specific actions.
I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
Later, still at the Capitol, the president signed a number of formal executive orders, allowing some of his appointees to take their posts.
Sir, the first is 22 cabinet and cabinet level.
The afternoon at the Capitol ended with the traditional luncheon with lawmakers. I'm Steve Futterman reporting.
Cold and snow affecting areas of the Gulf Coast states from Texas to the Florida Panhandle. Record low temperatures and between 1 to 5 inches of snow are expected in the region. Amid 20-degree weather in the nation's capital, President Trump signed a number of executive orders after the inauguration parade in front of a crowd at Capital One Arena. Correspondent Clayton Neville has a recap.
Sitting behind a small desk on the floor of Capital One Arena, President Trump signed one order after another as an aide read the items aloud.
The next item here is the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Treaty.
Trump signed a directive for the federal government,
ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward.
The president played into the crowd.
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so.
On energy, Trump promised to drill, baby, drill, and was highly critical of windmills.
We're not going to do the wind thing. Wind, big ugly windmills, they ruin your neighborhood, they ruin you. If you have a house that's near a windmill, guess what? Your house is worth less than half.
He brought up what he said he used to joke about.
I want to watch your favorite president on television. But the wind isn't blowing, so we can't watch television that night, Gladys.
Other orders Trump signed include a requirement that federal workers return to full-time, in-person work. He directed all government agencies to address Americans' cost of living crisis. And
no tax on tips, right? No tax on tips.
Trump also announced pardons for Americans convicted in the January 6th riot.
No, we're not going to put up with that crap anymore.
He wasn't done.
I'll also issue a temporary hiring freeze to ensure that we're only hiring competent people who are faithful to the American public.
More orders expected in coming days, hours for that matter, some likely to surround immigration. He plans to reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy and declare a national emergency at the border. I'm Clayton Neville.
When we return on America in the Morning, eyebrows raised over last-minute pardons from Joe Biden after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Gulf Coast states under winter weather advisories. The update from AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A rather rare winter storm is in progress, with much of the Gulf Coast region facing an atypical forecast of sleet and even some snow today. This risk runs from parts of the Rio Grande Valley right to much of the Texas Gulf Coast, with coastal areas eastward to the Florida Panhandle able to pick up at least 1 to 3 inches of snow through tonight. In fact, areas from the eastern part of the Houston metro area to New Orleans run the risk of 3 to 6 inches of snow, even locally higher amounts along Interstate 10 near the Texas-Louisiana border. As the storm progresses eastward, snowfall of several inches is expected to spread toward the southeast coast as well, with the Outer Banks of North Carolina perhaps facing a general 3 to 6 inches of snow as well, including a heavy burst of snow that could occur this evening. Another area with a risk for snow is the Great Lakes region, where lake effect snow continues once again today. The highest chance for heavier snow squalls will be downwind of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, where snow may be measured in feet in spots through tonight. Areas of the northeast closer to the coast instead face a bitterly cold Tuesday, with highs remaining 15 to 25 degrees below historical averages not only over the east, but also through the plains and into parts of the Intermountain West. Mainly dry conditions prevail for the most part outside of North Dakota and Minnesota, where some snow becomes likely this afternoon. A mostly dry day is also expected for the west, leading to a continuation of dangerous fire conditions for Southern California. Gusts in the mountains to the north of Los Angeles as well as to the east of San Diego may reach 60 to 80 miles per hour today, with gusts of 40 to 60 miles per hour in the typical spots. In San Francisco, look for sun much of the time and a high of 60. For Jackson, Mississippi, snow may accumulate a coating to around an inch with a high of just 33. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. After President Trump took the oath of office and gave his inaugural address, now former President Joe Biden boarded Marine One for Joint Base Andrews, where he wished his supporters well. Correspondent Donna Warder reports on Biden's farewell speech.
I only hope to look back on these years. I hope you look back on them. The same pride I have of all you've done. You know, I'm proud of is that you did it upholding the core values of honesty, decency, and integrity.
A thank you to former President Joe Biden after he and the former First Lady gave their farewells at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland.
It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president.
And there was even a mention of the new president.
We have a lot more to do. We heard the inaugural address today. You know, we got a lot more to do.
And Biden's last message to Americans: we're leaving office, but we're not leaving the fight.
Well, we've always done our best as Americans. We never, never, never give up. Never.
Donna Warder, Washington.
Joe Biden left Washington, but not before stirring controversy with last-minute pardons, including for Dr. Anthony Fauci. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports a number of high-profile Democrats warned Biden against issuing the preemptive pardons.
Biden says the people he's pardoning did nothing wrong, but is guarding against potential retribution by the Trump administration. Fauci says he appreciates the pardon, but made clear he committed no crime. He and Trump clashed at times during the pandemic.
People are tired of hearing Fauci and all these idiots.
Milley was chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and has called Donald Trump a fascist.
We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
Also pardoned members of the House committee investigating the Capitol riot. Trump told NBC last month.
Cheney was behind it, and so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did.
Yeah.
Honestly, they should go to jail.
Trump told NBC the pardons are disgraceful. Ed Donahue, Washington.
When we return on America in the Morning, Trump touts tariff threats after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Back in full swing on Wall Street, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger has Tuesday Business.
Wall Street opens this morning after yesterday's Martin Luther King holiday for the markets and after a rally for stocks last Friday. We're just 11 trading days into the new year. If you have an S&P 500 index fund in a brokerage or a retirement account like a lot of people do, you are up 2% so far this year. It's the first full day of the Trump presidency. A lot has been said about the Trump campaign promise to slap tariffs on all goods coming into the U.S. on this day one.
This is about connecting tariffs to our national security, to making sure that our allies and our rivals know what we expect of them and what they can face if they don't go along with some of the things that President Trump thinks is important, including reciprocity when it comes to trade. Are you committing to your NATO commitments, and are you meeting them? This is a dramatic change if it happens. This is going to be the first major change to the way we think about international trade since the end of World War II.
MCC Global's Michelle Caruso Cabrera on CNBC. The TikTok ban upheld by the Supreme Court last Friday. Congress passed a law to ban the Chinese-owned app or force it to be sold to an American company as it's a national security threat. It sits on the phones of half the population of the U.S., could be used to push propaganda, and it tracks all users as China data mines everyone who has it. Many believe that the Trump administration will figure out a compromise to keep the app active in the U.S.
Whether or not it's good for America, Trump wants TikTok to exist. He uses it very aggressively, and Trump is going to save TikTok.
Lightshed's Rich Greenfield on CNBC. Others are betting on Elon Musk's involvement in TikTok.
Look, I mean, this is a game of high-stakes poker. Trump's probably going to do a 90-day stay, as they try to figure out how they could ultimately get this sold or least structured. This is a very important matter, and the last thing that's going to happen here is that TikTok ultimately gets banned. They're going to work something out behind the scenes. We think Musk is going to play a key role in terms of X and ultimately could buy this.
Wedbush Securities' Dan Ives on CNBC. Less than 3 weeks away from the Super Bowl, which is on Fox this year, it will stream the game for free on Tubi. You will watch the ads. Many of the big companies advertising have started releasing either teases for their commercials or the whole commercials themselves to drive online and social media buzz. State Farm pulled its ad because of the Los Angeles wildfires, as it's the biggest home insurance provider there. On today's watch list, earnings are coming today from 3M, Charles Schwab, D.R. Horton, Netflix, United Airlines, and Capital One.
Thank you, Jessica Ettinger of CNBC. J6ers pardoned, fire update from California. Those stories when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Among the executive orders and actions taken by President Trump in his first day back in office, he followed through on a campaign promise and pardoned approximately 1,500 people involved in the January 6, 2021 riot at the US Capitol. Trump also commuted the sentences of leaders of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, including Kelly Meggs, an Oath Keepers leader who was convicted of seditious conspiracy, and former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio, who received the longest prison term of 22 years following his conviction. America in the Morning continues. Fire-ravaged Southern California is dealing with more gusty winds and heightened wildfire risk. But as correspondent Julie Walker reports, fire crews seem to have the upper hand in containing the biggest blazes.
It is hopeful that we are about 48 hours away from turning the page on this particular emergency. But until then, we're going to do everything we can to keep you safe.
The gusty Santa Ana winds return to the Los Angeles area, bringing fears of new fires, says National Weather Service senior meteorologist Andrew Rourke in California.
We have a red flag warning with particularly dangerous conditions.
He notes the triple threat of low humidity, dry fuels, and those high winds.
55 to 65 and even 70 to 90 mile per hour winds in the mountains will be there just to cause fire behavior for any new fire starts to be extreme.
But he says there is some good news. Rain is forecast this weekend. Meanwhile, the Eaton fire is 87% contained and the Palisades 59%, according to CAL FIRE. Evacuation orders remain in effect, and officials warn that other residents need to be ready to go if new fires start. I'm Julie Walker.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, President Trump takes the oath of office. Then,
President Trump takes office and declares 2 national emergencies. I'm Clayton Neville.
A member of Doge done already? I'm Pamela Furr.
Trump's first cabinet member confirmed. Pete Hegseth could join him by Friday, and not much star power for Davos 2025.
Frigid temperatures engulfing Texas and other parts of the South, all the way down to the Florida Panhandle. I'm Julie Walker.
Tech titans show up for Trump's second inaugural. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
A sizable share of Americans hold a neutral view of the incoming president's proposals. Jennifer King, Washington.
Back after these messages. Wildfire risk will be increasing in the West. Welcome back to America in the Morning. Here's today's forecast from AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Extremely dangerous fire conditions continue today as the latest strong Santa Ana wind event progresses over Southern California with widespread gusts to 40 to 60 miles per hour and higher gusts approaching 80 miles per hour or more in the mountainous terrain, both to the north of Los Angeles as well as to the east of San Diego. Gusts of these levels are expected to result not only in a continued extreme risk for fires through the day, but also power outages in areas of blowing dust. With gusts this strong, any minor change in wind direction can result in drastic shifts in the spread of any new fires that may develop, while also hampering containment efforts for the existing fires that started earlier this month. However, once the strongest winds wind down later tomorrow, a somewhat smaller area should continue to face gusts up to 60 miles per hour into the day on Friday before some relief arrives this weekend. Most of the rest of the West also has dry conditions in store today, with just some snow showers over Montana. A storm pressing southward from Canada brings some snow to the upper Midwest as well by the end of the day today, with most of the Plain states also staying precipitation-free for this Tuesday. However, the Great Lakes and, yes, the South are where wintry weather will be most prevalent today. Over the south, a storm centered over the Gulf of Mexico will continue to produce areas of sleet and snow rather far to the south, perhaps right to the coast in both Texas and Louisiana, with the potential for 3 to 6 inches of snow and locally higher amounts for southern Louisiana, and a rare 2 to 4 inches around Houston, with at least 1 to 3 inches for coastal and southern areas of Mississippi through the Carolinas. Outside of those areas, lake effect snow continues off of all the Great Lakes, with some heavy squalls most likely off of Lakes Erie and Ontario. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Donald Trump entered the Capitol Rotunda and, along with J.D. Vance, were sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States. Correspondent Donna Warder reports on Trump's second inauguration.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
And with that, Donald Trump becomes the 47th president of the United States. Trump survived criminal indictments, 2 assassination attempts, and impeachments to win his second term in office, the first being the 2016 election.
In 2020, by the way, that election was totally rigged, but that's okay. It was a rigged election. You know, the only thing good about it, it showed how bad they are, showed how incompetent, and frankly, historically, this is a much bigger event. If that would have gone like it should have, the bad thing about it is some bad things happened, like a lot of people in our country that wouldn't be in our country right now. So, you know, that's the bad part.
The president already has prepared for his signature executive orders to clamp down on border crossings, increase development of fossil fuels, and end diversity and inclusion programs in the federal government.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
Donna Warder, Washington.
President Trump is declaring national emergencies surrounding 2 of his top campaign promises as he assumes the presidency. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
President Donald Trump said during his inaugural address that the golden age of America begins right now. He doubled down on that message in front of a crowd at Capital One Arena.
And now we're going to go and drill, baby, drill, and do all the things that we've wanted to do and bring your costs down, your prices down, and make our country safe.
The president declared an emergency on energy and at the southern border. He promised action.
We're not finished yet. We got a long way to go. Oh, you're going to be happy reading newspapers tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day.
Trump said that all illegal entry will immediately stop and promised the beginning of returning millions of criminals to where they came from. Congressman Byron Donalds reacted with Fox News.
That's what the future of America needs to be. Legal immigration, secured borders. That's what Donald Trump is going to deliver.
And Trump promised to reinstate his Remain in Mexico policy and end the practice of catch and release. He also plans to send troops to the southern border to deter what he called an invasion. Minutes after the president took office, his administration shut down a mobile app for migrants to make appointments at the US-Mexico border. Officials in Texas reacting. The state's agriculture commissioner, Sid Miller.
Thank God that he won, and he will finally address that issue and build the wall and shut that down. And there's a lot of other issues.
And Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton confident Trump will execute his plans for mass deportations, but isn't clear on specifics.
I don't know if it's going to happen the next couple of days, but I know that that's an immediate. I was talking to Tom Holman a couple of days ago, and I know that that's a priority of his. So I think they're ready. So it's going to start happening somewhere. My guess is you might see it in some other more northern cities first.
Now, as far as the national emergency on energy, Trump plans to ramp up domestic energy production and is ending what the White House referred to as the electric vehicle mandate. I'm Clayton Neville.
On Inauguration Day, the Senate voted to confirm Marco Rubio as President Donald Trump's Secretary of State, the first high-level cabinet official for the new administration to be approved by the chamber. The confirmation vote took place just hours after Trump was sworn in as president. The unanimous bipartisan vote was 99-0, with no senators voting against the nomination. Rubio has served as a Republican senator from Florida since 2011, and his nomination drew strong support. America in the Morning continues. One person who was supposed to have a big hand in helping President Trump reshape the government now has new plans in mind. Former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy will be leaving the setup of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, even before it gets off the ground. Following that story, correspondent Pamela Furr.
Rumors were flying over the weekend, but it has been confirmed that Ramaswamy will not join the office of Doge. He, along with Elon Musk, had been tapped in November by now President Trump to steer this new office.
And he's a great guy, and we have him and Vivek and some great people working on a thing called costs. And he's got the credibility to do it, too. We're going to do things that are really amazing.
Instead, it is expected that Ramaswamy will launch a Republican campaign for Ohio governor next week. In a statement on social media, he said, "It was my honor to help support the creation of Doge. I'm confident that Elon and the team will succeed in streamlining government. I'll have more to say very soon about my future plans in Ohio." Now, on Friday, Governor Mike DeWine announced that Ohio's Lieutenant Governor, John Husted, will fill the U.S. Senate seat that was held by now Vice President J.D. Vance. DeWine is term limited, so he won't be seeking re-election in 2026. I'm Pamela Furr.
A step closer for Hegseth, and Gulf Coast states brace for a major winter storm. Those stories and a college sports win when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. After the inaugural swearing-in ceremony, the Senate Armed Services Committee voted along party lines to send Pete Hegseth's nomination to be Defense Secretary to a vote by the U.S. Senate. All 14 Republicans on the committee voted in favor of Hegseth, while all 13 Democrats voted against him. Hegseth's nomination faced a number of hurdles, including concerns over allegations of sexual impropriety and issues with alcohol and finances. Hegseth denied the allegations. He also faced fierce questions from Democrats on the committee over past statements regarding women in combat roles. A vote by the Senate on his nomination could come as early as Thursday. Well, those in northern U.S. states are used to cold and snow in the winter, but for parts of Texas and the Gulf Coast states over to Florida and then eastward into the Carolinas, residents are not only bracing for an unusual Arctic blast of chilly temperatures, but also preparing for snow and ice. Here's correspondent Julie Walker with the latest.
Frigid temperatures engulfing Texas and other parts of the South all the way down to the Florida Panhandle.
So we are looking for a significant winter storm, potentially a historic winter storm for portions of these areas.
And National Weather Service meteorologist Mark Chenard says the forecast calls for 4 to 6 inches of snow.
The highest amounts we're looking is like maybe 4 to 6 inches from near Houston, just east of Houston, towards Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Wouldn't necessarily be the most they've seen, but it's a very rare event to see totals like that. Wouldn't necessarily be the most they've seen, but it's a very rare event to see totals like that.
Meanwhile, people in the northern plains where some wind chills were negative 50 Monday to Maine, where wind chills were in the single digits and teens, are experiencing bitterly cold weather as an Arctic air mass caused temperatures to plunge well below normal values.
The cold air is spreading across much of the country, pretty much anywhere from the Rockies and points eastward, seeing the well below normal temperatures, and it's going to continue for the next couple days. So the coldest temperatures we got right now are in the cross portions of the plains, where there's actually been wind chills that were below negative 50.
I'm Julie Walker.
In Davos, Switzerland, the World Economic Forum is getting underway, where heads of state, politicians, and business leaders converge for the annual event. However, a number of big names are bypassing the business forum. India's Prime Minister and China's President Xi Jinping, along with a number of European leaders, including the heads of state of France, Italy, and Great Britain, will not be attending. President Trump will not be in Switzerland, but will address Davos 2025 by video feed. Of the group of 7 industrialized nations, only Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz will be there in person. Over 1,600 business leaders, including 900 of the world's top CEOs, will be taking part. Access to abortion pills face a fresh challenge after a state judge okays a lawsuit with national implications to proceed. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
A federal judge in Texas is allowing 3 states, Idaho, Kansas, and Missouri, to pursue a challenge seeking to restrict access to the abortion pill mifepristone nationwide. The states want the courts to prohibit telehealth prescriptions and to limit the pill's use to the first 7 weeks of pregnancy. Right now it's 10. They also want to require 3 in-person doctor office visits to get the drug. Late last year, the states asked to pursue the case in the U.S. District Court in Amarillo, Texas, where the only federal judge is Matthew Kacsmaryk, a nominee of former, now President-elect Trump. Kacsmaryk previously sided with a group of anti-abortion doctors that wanted to force the FDA to rescind its approval of mifepristone entirely. The Supreme Court told them they do not have the legal right to try to have federal approval of the drug undone. This case is a narrower challenge. I'm Ben Thomas.
Major tech titans showed up to Donald Trump's second inauguration, as many of them try to gain favor with the new administration. Here's Chuck Palm with a look in today's Tech Report.
You might be wondering how a second Trump presidency might affect the tech industry. With tech titans like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk attending yesterday's inaugural address, it looks like big tech is showing up to try to play nice. In addition to Zuckerberg and Musk, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, Apple CEO Tim Cook, Google Sundar Pichai, and TikTok CEO Zhu Shichu have already visited him in Florida at Mar-a-Lago, and these tech companies or their founders have generously donated to the Trump campaign. Why is this important? It's believed that these tech companies have showed up because of Trump's past comments they fear he will try to seek revenge for what Trump believes was mistreatment or censorship of his comments regarding the 2020 election. Former Trump White House advisor Steve Bannon said, "The tech titans are beaten down and are now supplicants, and that Trump's win has broke the tech oligarchs." For up-to-date tech news, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Football remains the headlines in morning sports. Here's Robert Workman.
Ohio State is college football's national champion. The Buckeyes beat Notre Dame 34-23 in the CFP championship game in Atlanta last night. It's their first title in 10 years. The Irish scored on an 18-play drive to begin the game and then couldn't do much else, while Ohio State proceeded to score on its first 5 possessions, including 2 Will Howard TD passes and 2 rushing touchdowns by Quinshon Judkins to take a 31-7 lead in the third quarter. Notre Dame bounced back with a pair of scoring passes from Riley Leonard to Jaden Greathouse, each with a 2-point conversion to make it a 1-score game. But they could not convert a fourth-quarter OSU fumble into points, and the Buckeyes tacked on a field goal in the final minute to give the Big Ten back-to-back national titles for the first time since World War II. NFL news, the Bears are reportedly set to hire Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as their new head coach. NBA, the first-place Cavaliers soared past the Suns 118-92. Donovan Mitchell with 33 points in the MLK Day matinee. Celtics whacked the Warriors 125-85. Golden State's worst home loss in 40 years. Boston's Jason Tatum.
This is a tough place to play. We ain't won a game here since, I think, game 1 of the finals, 2022.
Pelicans rallied from down 25 to bop the Jazz in overtime. CJ McCollum had 45 points. Australian Open, 3-seed Coco Gauff lost her quarterfinal to 11-seed Paula Badosa of Spain in straight sets. Americans Emma Navarro and Madison Keys have quarterfinal matches tomorrow. One American man has made it to the quarterfinal round. Ben Shelton, he plays tomorrow as well. That's Tuesday Sports.
Robert Workman on sports. When we return on America in the Morning, Trump's in. Not everyone's on board. The results of a new poll after these messages. America in the Morning continues. At the movies, it was a slower than usual Martin Luther King Day weekend, but there was a surprise at the box office, as we hear from Kevin Carr.
Lions defended the top box office spot from Wolves during the slowest Martin Luther King Day weekend in years.
The circle is broken. There will be one Lion King.
Less than $100 million in tickets were sold, but it was enough for Mufasa to ascend to king once again with $15.5 million over the 4-day weekend.
Your boyfriend took our rent money and dipped.
I invested in it. This is our future.
In a surprise second was One of Them Days with $14 million. The comedy stars Keke Palmer and SZA as roommates trying to make rent after their stash was stolen.
I think my husband was infected.
It was supposed to take first, but ended up in third. Universal's reboot of The Wolfman only managed to scare up $12 million for the 4-day holiday.
He is much more impressive than the hedgehog I fought previously.
Dude, I'm standing right here.
Sonic the Hedgehog kept its running shoes on, earning $11 million for the long weekend and landing in 4th place.
The entire ocean is counting on us.
And rounding out the top 5 was Moana 2 with $8.4 million. The box office juggernaut has slowed down, but still sailed past $1 billion worldwide this weekend, joining Inside Out and Deadpool and Wolverine as the 3rd Disney release from last year to crack that magical number.
Disney brought him back. They're going to make him do this till he's 90.
I'm Kevin Carr.
One of the first polls taken as President Trump begins his second term as commander-in-chief looks at both support and opposition of his agenda. As correspondent Jennifer King reports, the national political divide is clear within the polling.
A sizable share of Americans hold a neutral view of the incoming president's proposals. Over half of U.S. adults favor eliminating taxes on earnings from tips. More than 2/3 favor deporting all immigrants convicted of a violent crime. The poll finds Americans are pretty evenly divided on whether to increase oil drilling on federal lands. Other proposals in the Trump agenda were not as popular. 6 in 10 respondents oppose pardoning Capitol rioters. A majority oppose dropping out of the Paris Climate Agreement. Almost half of Americans oppose raising tariffs on imported goods, and only 4 in 10 Americans support mass deportations of all immigrants in the country illegally. On the question of transgender students, more Americans were in favor of protections than were opposed. The poll by the Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs Research finds that despite Donald Trump's claims of an unprecedented mandate, the incoming Republican president lacks broad support for some of his top priorities. Jennifer King, Washington.
That's our show for today, Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.